Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Monsignor Nolan. You know, my guest today is just a delightful, delightful young person, young adult, I have to say. She hosts her own Catholic radio show on WFJS 1260 AM and 89.3 FM. Pretty exciting to have
it is,
AM
yeah.
and FM.
I know.
Gabriella Formato is the program host and development coordinator at Domestic Church Media Catholic Radio. The program she hosts is called Everything is Grace. Everything is Grace highlights God's grace in the lives of young people in our Catholic Church with the beautiful faith that they share. Gabriella, and you'll know just by her smile, has a great love for God and for her faith and our church. Since her confirmation in 2001, she's been seeking and growing closer to her God more and more. Besides God, some of her interests include, and when I say besides God, because God's in all the interests, but anyway, we can kind of say that she does have some other thoughts, teaching Zumba to women 55 and over. And I must tell you, I got to ask her about Zumba.
Yeah, it's Zumba, actually.
Teaching religious education, she tutors math, sign language, spends time at the beach. She loves to meet new people and travel to different countries for pilgrimages and World Youth Days. Currently, Gabriella is studying theology, working toward her master's degree at Seton Hall University. A delightful, delightful young lady.
Thanks.
Gabriella, welcome to the Catholic Corner.
Thank you.
Gosh, it's so neat to have you.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start with this interview. I don't know whether to go from Zumba dancing or whatever it is.
Zumba,
well,
yeah.
I think we should start from the beginning.
Sure.
Tell me, you know, you're a young person with a great smile, and you have your own radio show. Everything is Grace. How did you get your own radio show at such a young, beautiful age?
That was definitely a grace too. I was preparing to go to World Youth Day Madrid because I felt God was kind of calling me there, and that's kind of like a process too. Like there's so many beautiful things that the church offers, but it's like so many mission trips, everything. But it's like, okay, where does God want me? So I know he definitely wanted me to go there. And as I was preparing to go, I had this desire to like pull more people in with my journey, you know, like more people in the church, to pray for them, to make them a part of my pilgrimage. And it was actually with the Diocese of Trenton I was going. So I found out there was a Catholic radio station in Trenton. So I called them up and I was like, did you know about World Youth Day? Are you doing anything to promote it? And the man, he's kind of older, so he didn't know about World Youth Day, really. Well, he knew about it, but he didn't know, like, many details, you know, like the basics. So he was like, well, he actually gave me, let me give you to my wife, you can talk to her. And then I got in touch with his wife, who also works at the station, and they had me come on and just talk about World Youth Day. And then they followed my pilgrimage on the radio, so when I came back, I went back on the radio and I described like the trip, and I like assured them like I was praying for you guys and they were praying for me on the radio. And so a relationship developed from then on. And then when they needed someone to host a show for young adults, I kind of was just there. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But now I can see why we even see God's grace. You know, isn't it amazing? How all of a sudden, you know, probably a couple of years before that, you weren't even dream that you're going to have either be on radio or have your own radio.
You're right, Monsignor. I never really thought of that. I do like always pray, like, God, show me my vocation, like where you want me to be. Yeah. And so like little doors open and I find myself places and I'm like, okay.
And you know, I tell a lot of young people that when they're in high school, college, that's a prayer they should start to pray, you know, from their own heart. You know, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go to this university or that university? Do you want me to study this, study that? How about these friends?
Right.
And I also tell folks that young folks when they're getting married, you know, that's it's a beautiful prayer, you know, to say even maybe before you start getting really committed, you know, dear God, is this the person? I mean, is this the kind of person that we can, you know, fulfill our lives with? Because I think, you know, there is that God that does walk with us, lead us, and it's all part of everything we do. Now tell me, so now all of a sudden you got a radio show.
Right.
You know, when and where does it air? How does all this happen?
At the time I was actually working in campus ministry.
For where?
Monmouth University.
Oh, sure.
So that was a lot of fun, and I love like.
Is that your undergraduate, Monmouth?
Yeah, that's where I went to school.
Good, good.
So I always loved like learning about like stories of young people, especially like on a college campus too. And then when this happened, it was like kind of right up my alley, because I love to hear people's stories and like how God is working in their lives. And so the radio show, each week I have a different guest, and they talk about God's grace working in their life. And it's on Fridays at 5 p.m., 89.3 FM, 1260 AM. And you can also get it online, domesticchurchmedia.org. And then it re-airs like over the weekend too. But Fridays at 5 is when the show starts. So.
Now, how do you get your guests? Are they university
question.
students? Are they you put an ad out, say, you'd like to be on my radio show?
No, it's definitely divine providence. I really rely on God leading me to people, or God leading me to people who know people, you know? Even Marianne Hartman at the diocesan office worked with young adults in Real Faith TV. So when they graduate from Real Faith TV, when they're too old to do that, like they're perfect age for my program. So I've actually had a couple guests from Real Faith TV,
Terrific.
like graduates of that, and then just friends that I've met along the way.
Terrific. You know, when you said Monmouth University, a long time ago, then you asked me how many years ago, I actually, well, I was really a chaplain at Rider University.
Oh, really?
And somehow or other I made a connection with Monmouth, and I would go there just a little bit. But they had a house there, I remember.
Yes.
You still have that house?
It's still there,
really?
yeah.
I've said mass in that house.
Really?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So tell me a couple of your guests. I mean, what?
Sure.
I know you talk about grace, but how do we get into their own
Stories.
understanding of grace or their own story?
Yeah. Well, like I said, a few of my guests have been from Real Faith TV, but also I like to reach out to different people, maybe people that are not so well known in certain parts of our country. Like one young girl, Lila Rose. I don't know, have you heard of her?
No.
Okay, well then you can listen to that episode. But Lila Rose is a big pro-life activist, and she's actually dressed, like went undercover in abortion clinics and exposed like kind of like the cover-up that they've been doing and the illegal processes that abortion clinics have been having. So I had her come on as a phone-in guest. And she's a national speaker now.
So some of your guests are phone-in guests.
Right.
They don't just come to the studio with you. Okay.
And then I've had another popular one, Leah Darrow. Have you heard of her? She's from America's Next Top Model, like the show where, you know, they take a random girl from the street and they make a model. You have to try out, but they make a model out of you.
Well, be a model.
No, but the show is tough. Like she said, it really broke her down morally. And so she had a conversion during this whole like reality TV show, so she shared that. But I also like to highlight people in our own neighborhoods that are like going to daily mass and that are really striving to live out God's calling in a world that maybe is not so aware of God's working in their life.
You know, there was a Dr. Dan Gottlieb, I think it is, who said one time that you can change the world with 4 words.
Ooh.
And the 4 words were, tell me your story.
Really?
And he has a whole understanding, and I kind of really feel very close to that. That, you know, if you tell me your story and I'll tell you my story, and there's stories of hurts and grace and love and kindness and yet maybe despair, but yet telling the story brings about an awful lot of healing.
Right.
In fact, when I did a lot of counseling and healing work, I would actually say, you know, that the healing process, the telling of the story, begins the healing process and begins the grace process in a certain way.
Afterward, you'll have to tell me the guy again so I can look it up.
Okay,
That's really cool.
But that's and that's what we do, don't we?
You
we
too.
tell stories.
Yeah, we have
and
something in common.
We talk each other's story, and that's what Jesus did. He told us his story, and he invites us to kind of share our story, and then he allows the story to grow in love and to grow in peace. And so, what are some of the other topics you've covered?
So, like you were saying before about like praying about, you know, your future spouse and where does God want you? So I've also had people come on that really did go through that. Like they prayed about their vocation. Maybe they even tried the seminary and left, or maybe they're in the seminary. I've had a couple seminarians on. So a lot of stories of God's grace in vocations and mission trips, like people that have been transformed by going to a different country and serving the poor, or World Youth Days even. One of my friends, actually, I just recorded a show with her, and she was with me on pilgrimage to Rome. So she shared a lot about that, too.
Boy, that's exciting. When you're saying all this, I mean, thoughts come back to mind. When I was younger and thinking of what to do and what not to do, I remember going to church one time, by myself, early in the morning, and just sitting over in the corner and saying to the Lord, you know, Lord, I'm kind of a thick-headed kid. You know, you got to really, show me. You know, I can't.
Make it clear.
But yeah, like you know, let the truck hit me or something.
Right.
You know, but I think it's a neat thing to just let God show you the way, and maybe and sometimes it takes time. Doesn't always happen overnight, you know.
Right.
But that's marvelous, you know.
Was this? I'm just curious. Was this before you became a priest?
Yes.
You were praying this
yeah.
prayer?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. That took, sometimes you got to get shaken a little bit, you know. But that's so. What? How long have you had your show now?
Actually, it's been a year since March. Yeah. So I've had I guess about 52 different guests.
Wow. Now, do you keep a record of all of that, or?
Yes, I think it's online on the website.
I was going to say
domesticchurchmedia.org.
So somebody can go back to some of the old,
you can listen to
old
old
programs or whatever they happen to be. What do you like most about hosting your own Catholic TV, Catholic radio show?
That's a great question, Monsignor. I think just because I love God, I love to hear about Him. And I love to hear about how He's blessed others. And that's probably what I love most about it. Just being able to share in their joys or in their pains or sufferings too. But you're also sharing in God's life too.
Isn't it interesting, Gabriella, when people tell their story and they search for where is God in that story? I mean, sometimes God is in the story even when it's a little painful or you know, we really never know until we see how God lets us kind of, you know, all of a sudden it unfolds and we kind of get our little light bulb says, oh, okay.
Definitely.
Because I think, you know, things happen to us in life. And maybe, you know, I don't know if God's up there in the God of the foxhole that says, you know, I'll save you, but I won't save him. I don't know like that. But you know, you say, and I'm going to tell you a little story.
Sure.
A friend of mine in college, they're going way back, and he actually was asked to leave the university because he just wasn't doing so well with it. And he went one way, I went another way. Didn't see him for maybe 5 years, more than that. And I bumped into him in New York one day, and we said hello. And he said, you know, the best thing, because the last time I saw him, he was crying. Then he said the best thing ever happened to me was being asked to leave that university. He went to another one, met his wife. Has a great career, great job.
Guess he did better in school too.
Know, he said, maybe if I wasn't asked to leave, I never would have found all of this.
That's true.
So we, you know, and I like to share that because sometimes people do get down, and they kind of say, you know, what's happening to me? How will I ever? Well, you never know. You just got to stay with God and let God kind of keep walking with us, and we telling Him the story and let the story unfold. You know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize, those events until that they were a part of God's plan until later.
Until later on,
you know?
Sure. But even at Scripture, you know, you look back at the Old Testament. They look back and say, oh, that's what God was doing to us, you know. And it's a marvelous.
40 years in the
thing.
desert.
That's right. 40 years is a long time, though. I always say, I don't, you know.
Thank God. I'd be grumbling too.
40 years.
There's also a country song. Do you know that one? God bless the broken road that led me straight to you.
No.
It's kind of like that.
Is that right?
There's two country songs that are kind of have that feel, you know, every mistake or every good thing, it's all part of God's plan.
Sure. And even with God's plan, you know, you mentioned a song like that. And I remember a poem a long time ago when I was probably younger than you, and it was called Up Again, Down Again. It was about a boxer, and he got knocked. Oh no, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't even think anybody can find this.
Can you
poem.
recite it?
No, a little bit of it. But it was up again, down again, up again at 9. So what happened with the boxer get knocked down, but he always got up, and of course he ends up winning the fight, you know. And I keep saying, you know, you got to get up.
That's
and
what
even
life
Jesus,
is, yeah.
Jesus got up, you know, carrying the cross, he got up to show us that we always can get up, and that's resurrection, isn't it? That's grace. That's the beauty of the whole blessedness. Tell me, what do you do as this development coordinator of the domestic church media?
Right. It's almost an extension of my show in a sense. Only because as development coordinator, I'm called to go out and meet people and introduce them to Catholic radio and, you know, invite them to tune in, to listen to the station, one, and also to support the station because we're a nonprofit. So we need listener support. And so when I go out places, I go to churches, I go visit Knights of Columbus, social meetings, and just developing relationships with people and inviting them to be part of our domestic church media family.
You come to the Catholic Corner
Yeah,
and tell us your
invite
story.
everyone to listen. So
that's terrific. You know, is there a key point in your own faith journey? I noticed, you know, you said in 2001 or
yes.
there was a key in your life. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, Monsignor. I was always Catholic. I was brought up in a Catholic family, and when I was younger, my mom, her faith grew stronger. You know, she started going to daily mass and praying the rosary. She had her own kind of, I guess, conversion, you would say, and that really affected the whole family. So, you know, God was becoming more part of our family, but he didn't become more like part of my own personal life until 2001 when I made my confirmation. I think because I was like kind of forced to like, you know, decide like, do I want to take my faith seriously, or do I want to treat the sacrament of confirmation as just some like ceremony, you know, some party? And I had two really great teachers. One woman, she has since died, but she's always in my heart, Lucy Catalano, and my mom, Susan Formato, was my teacher too. And they really had a love for God, and that showed through and shined through in their teaching. And they're the kind of people you wanted to imitate. So that was one major factor. And then God introduced me to St. Therese, the Little Flower. So it was suggested that I read her book, The Story of a Soul. And her soul I could relate to so much. I mean, I hope to be a saint, but like the aspects of her personality, like how she was very strong-willed, you know. When she was a child, she had a temper. I had a temper too. And she had a great desire just to love God. Like she had a lot of like, she was very sensitive and passionate. And I guess I could identify with that. And I really realized that through her own story and her own relationship with God, like I could have a friendship with God too. Like I didn't have to just speak with him through a Sunday Mass or through a nighttime Hail Mary, you know? Like he wanted to be a part of my life, just like he was such a part of St. Therese, the Little Flower's life. And so then I started like talking to God, kind of. It was kind of weird at first, like, you know, like you're talking to God, does he really hear me? Like, and I would journal, like write like little journaling to God too. And then I realized like I had a listening heart, like he gave me that grace from then on. And so I was attuned to like when he would answer my prayers, and I was like convinced that he was a part of my life and that he wanted to be a part of my life. And that really transformed my life, knowing that I was loved by him, you know? And it's still a gradual thing for me to like fully grasp his love for me, but that was the beginning, and that was what really changed me.
That's you know, amazing that the Little Flower kind of you know, captured you. And you said that when you were younger, you know, you probably were probably more like it than you realized, you know.
Right. Yeah.
There's a I guess a letter that somehow it was part of her love, and when she was, I don't know, I'm 3, 4, 5 years old, she was sitting on her sister's lap, and the sister said, write something to God, and she actually wrote and said something like I'm a little rascal, something, you know. And
wow. Thanks for
I'm
sharing that
paraphrasing all
story.
of this now,
Yeah.
but she did say something like, I love to make people laugh, and
right.
you know, and it was so cute.
Like something personal and silly. Yeah.
But that's what God wants, huh? You know, he wants our heart. I know even now during this year of faith,
right.
Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and lots of times people, at least what I see, you know, they want to get the knowledge out, and which is wonderful, and I keep saying, well, that's all good, but you know, there's a heart that he wants.
It has to go from here to here a lot.
And I said he wants our hearts. You know, he wants us to be part of that and part of his heart.
Right.
And that's friendship. You know, that's. I have a definition of a friend. A friend is the one who knows the song in your heart and will sing it back to you if you ever tend to forget it.
Oh, I like
and
that.
I think that's what Jesus does. You know, he knows the song in our heart. And once in a while, we tend to maybe get busy doing this or doing that, and he says, "Excuse me."
Right.
It
reminds us.
Sing a few more songs, and whatever happens to us, you know. So that's. I think
and
that's
that faith brings us joy too. You know, just like a song brings you joy.
Sure. That's what it's all about. Gosh, we could talk forever, you and I.
I know, this is great.
That's what...
you should come to the radio next.
That's what... Well, I'm too old to be on the radio show.
Maybe the other show, we can have you on that.
But that's the difference, and I think there's a great difference between covenant love and contract love. And what you're talking about is covenant love. It's really the love that says, I love because I love.
Yeah.
Not because I'll do this for you or you do this for me.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Lord says, when you have that, then he says, follow me. And when we follow him, we don't know. Like we don't. Right, well, I'll follow you. You know, if I get the job, I'll follow you. If I don't, you know, I make the team.
That's the contract part,
That's the contract part. And he says, you know, I mean, we do some of that because that's the way you are as humans. But he says, no, just come because you love me.
Right.
And I'm going to go with you because I love you.
Yes.
You know, and that's and I don't love you just because, you know, just because you keep the commandments. I love you because you're my daughter or you're my sister. And
that's something I'm always learning too. Like, God loves me no matter what. You know.
Sure.
Of course, he wants me to be a good person and wants me to be a saint, but like, he loves me when I fail, you know. He loves me when I oversleep and don't get like my prayer time in, you know.
I tend to think, not that he can love us more, so to speak, but I think
he has sympathy
he loves
for
us more in a way. It's kind of like, oh my God, look, I got to go wake her up.
Yes.
You know? Anyway.
And that's why it kind of goes back to St. Therese too, like a child, you know, like. Yeah. The more we become like a child and depend on him.
Right. And even though she was like a child, she was a beautiful, mature, understanding person, woman with wisdom, with great wisdom. Do you find it difficult, you know, as a young adult, to practice your faith with, what would I say, with the society that we live in? And, you know, there's a lot of struggles. There's struggles in the church, there's struggles outside the church.
I think sometimes it's discouraging because you can't find as many people that share the same love of God. But God has kind of given me a personality like a fighter. So I kind of like it too.
A little feistiness.
You know, like I do, it's not so much like a struggle for me, like if I run into like people that don't agree or don't live the same lifestyle. It's like an opportunity for me to kind of evangelize, not by words, but by like loving them.
Sure.
But it is somewhat of a struggle in a sense. You feel a little bit alone in you're walking toward God, but like, don't these people want to do what's best for their life too? Don't they want to pray about their vocation? So that's the only kind of like big struggle.
What are some of the hungers that you think that your generation has? You know, what are they hungering for that maybe the church can kind of help share that hunger or help feed that hunger?
I'll try to answer, but you might have good insight too, so then I'll ask you too. But first thing that comes to mind is love. And like, I think Mother Teresa says it well. Like, I think she said, we're all longing to be loved and to love. And especially as young adults, kind of searching for like, you know, are you meant to be married? Where does God want you to give your whole life and yourself to? You're looking for like fulfillment. And that's why it's so important to turn to God and not toward like other outlets, you know? They could even be good outlets, like exercising, you know? But it's so important to turn to God to receive fulfillment. And that's something I always kind of pray to and struggle to, like, let me seek you and not other things or friends or interests. I think
and maybe your generation, I hope, can reach out to our new Holy Father Francis, or him reaching back, because I think that's his heart. You know, and you said it so well, Gary, because you really put love in two contexts. You know, I don't know if you know what you just said, but you said he wants us to love and be loved, so that we can love, but we know we can be loved.
Right.
And they have to go together. You know, sometimes we can say, "Oh, I can love you, and I can do things for you," but sometimes we have to allow people to kind of love us too, and take some strength from us, or give us some of their gifts, so that we can. That's
humility too.
Well, so we can kind of join with each other together. And I know my own hope is we have had great people in the church, but I think the Holy Father Francis might be just, you know, kind of the seeds that are taking us young and old and everything into that.
It's funny you say that, because I was saying, like, the main thing, like, he believes in the church, he believes in the traditions, he's very like true to the church, but what shines through the most is his love for all people, you know? Like, you can just feel it in his presence, in his actions, like what he does. He doesn't kind of put himself like up higher just because he's the Pope. He's really with the people.
Now, what are some of the ways, because you're a young person with a nice smile, what are some of the ways that you keep your faith growing? So that might be, might help others.
Well, the church is like my solace, So this sacrament of, communion, like just going to Mass, like on a regular basis, like daily Mass. And also I have like a holy hour. So spending time before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament kind of lets me, like opens me up to let him loving me. And then you can share it with others. And then spending time with friends that have the same beliefs, and because that's important too, because it's not always easy, living a life where you're trying to be good and do what God wants. So like sharing your struggles and your fears and your joys with friends too is important.
And the joys with friends. I mean, loving God and having God love you is joyful. Sometimes people don't realize it. Even whether it's single life, priesthood life, married life, there's a great joy. I say to people, and it's a long story that I got this way. But I say to people sometimes, are you having fun? And I don't mean partying. I mean, are you having joy in your life? Because that's it doesn't matter. You can have joy being alone with God and praying. I call it the alone with the alone. Or sometimes you find it, with a whole bunch of people, or you do it, running for some cause or doing something for somebody else, and we're going on a pilgrimage where you meet other people and see other cultures and realize, oh my gosh, we all love children, we all love each other. There's not much difference except maybe we sing a little differently or dance a little differently or whatever we do, Now you had an experience recently traveling to Rome when the new Pope was named. Oh my gosh, tell me quickly.
I wish you were there. Okay. It was really a wonderful experience, and like all my pilgrimages, they start like before I go, So like I was taking intentions of so many people with me. So that was really nice to spiritually be connected with friends, family, and listeners back home. And it was something that we didn't necessarily plan. Our only plan was to go to Rome, right? So I had paid everything in full, it was done in November. And then in February of the following year, we found out, like, oh my gosh, Pope Benedict's resigning. What's going to happen when we're there? So it just turned out the week we were there was the week of the election. And
you were there when all of this took place and the curtains were parted, and were you down there and clapping and everything?
Oh yeah, it was like right under the window.
God. We have to talk some more some other time.
Okay.
Gabriella, bless you, bless you.
Yeah.
For more information about Gabriella's show or Domestic Church Media, you can go to their website at www.domesticchurchmedia.org.
Yes.
Bless you. Smile. Enjoy.